Hey everybody, thanks again for joining me today for 1.6 extension. I hope you're doing well, and in this extension section, we're going to talk about how to add or subtract fractions, and I hope this is our class when we're done. All right, everybody can give that little bit of a fist bump because they understand fractions. So that's my goal for today. Hopefully I can help you along with this. Our learning target is I can use least common multiples to add and subtract fractions. Make sure you're filling in the blanks here with your name and your date, and we'll start with a little bit of vocabulary. It says, recall you can add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators by writing, and our blank here is equivalent fractions with a common denominator. Remember, a denominator is the number on the bottom of your fraction. So denominators are at the bottom, numerators are at the top. Okay? One way to do this is by multiplying the numerator and the denominator of each fraction by the denominator of the other fraction. Might sound like a mouthful, but I will show you how to do that. So here you'll see it says find 5/8 plus 1/6. And right now we do not have common denominators. These numbers aren't the same. But we're going to add these two fractions by using equivalent fractions by using a common denominator. All right, and the way that we're going to do that is we're going to take this first fraction and we're going to multiply it by the denominator of the other fraction. So we're going to take 5/8 and we're going to multiply it by 6 on top and bottom. Okay, multiply the numerator by 6 and the denominator by 6. Right? And why can we do that is my question for you. Why can we multiply this fraction by 6 on top and bottom and it stays the same? The number stays the same. Well, you say, Mr. Yes, the numbers don't stay the same. 5 times 6 is 30, and 6 times 8 is 48. These aren't the same numbers, but why are they equivalent? Why are they the same value? Well, think about it this way. What is 6 over 6? What is 6 divided by 6? Well, anything divided by itself is 1. So if we take 5/8 and we're multiplying it by 1, essentially we're getting the same value, right? So that's why when we multiply a fraction by the same number on top and bottom, it's like multiplying it by 1. It's still the same value. It's equivalent. This, even though the numbers look different, is equivalent, has the same value as 5/8. All right. We did that to the first, so we multiplied our first fraction by the denominator of the other fraction. Let's do it the other way. So we're also going to take 1/6, and we need to multiply it by the denominator of the other fraction, which is 8. So I'm going to multiply by 8 on top and bottom. Remember, that's essentially like multiplying by 1, so that's why it's equivalent. 1 times 8 is 8 over 6 times 8 is 48. And now you'll notice my fractions have a common denominator. I have 48 for both. So let me rewrite this as I have 30 48ths plus 8 48ths. It's the same value as this, but now I have a common denominator. All right. Now when I'm adding fractions, I keep my common denominator, so I'll keep 48ths the same, and then I will add my numerators. So 30 plus 8 would give me 38. All right. And then there's always that nice little word, usually in the directions. It's not in these directions, but it's always safe to assume you should simplify at the end. So I'm going to look at this fraction, 38 48ths, and I'm going to ask myself, do these two numbers have any common factors? Well, I see that both of these are even numbers. They both end in 8. So I should be able to divide each of them then by 2 if they're even numbers. All even numbers are divisible by 2. Okay. 38 divided by 2 would give me 19, and 48 divided by 2 would give me 24. Now, do 19 and 24 have any common factors? And, well, the only factors of 19 would be 1 times 19. So neither of those are. 1 is as our only common factor. So we are in simplest form. 19/24 would be our answer. Okay. Hopefully that's a little bit of a review for you. But if not, that's all right. I'm going to show you this same addition problem by fractions using another method. Okay. So it says the blank of 2 or more fractions is the least common multiple of the denominators. So the least common denominator of 2 or more fractions is the least common multiple of the denominators. So essentially, we're just looking at our denominators and finding their least common multiple. This provides another method for adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. So in the next example here, we're going to add the same 2 fractions. We're just going to do it another way without using multiplying by the denominator of the other fraction. We're going to multiply by the least common denominator. All right, so notice this is the same exact addition problem as before. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the least common multiple of our denominators. So the LCM of 8 and 6. Okay. What are my multiples of 8? Well, 8 times 1 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 3 is 24. You can keep going, 32, 40, so on and so forth. Okay. The multiples of 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. You can keep going if you want. Looks like I found my least common multiple, which is 24, right? So what that tells me is that is the least common denominator of these 2 fractions here, right? So I have 5/8 that I need to make into something with 24ths because I found that that's my least common denominator. And I also have 1/6 that I need to rewrite as a fraction with 24 as my denominator. Okay? Because that's I found out as my least common. So what I'll do is I'll ask myself, 8 times what number is 24? Well, that would be 3. So if I multiply by 3 on the bottom, I need to multiply by 3 on the top to keep this fraction equivalent. So 5 times 3 would be 15. That's the same reason as before up here when I multiplied by 6 on top and bottom, because it's like multiplying by 1 and keeping these fractions equivalent, right? So I multiply by 3 on top and bottom to keep this fraction equivalent. Let's look at my bottom fraction, 1/6. How do I go from 6 to 24ths? Well, 6 times 4 is 24. I need to multiply by 4 on top as well to keep this fraction equivalent. So 1 times 4 would give me 4. Now, if I were to rewrite these, I would have 15 24ths plus 4 24ths. And you'll notice now I have a common denominator, which is 24. And if I add my top 2 numbers, 15 plus 4 would give me 19. Is that the same answer that I got up here? Absolutely, 19/24. And you'll notice this time, I didn't have to simplify because I first found the least common denominator, right? I used a little bit of the information that I learned from 1.6 and applied it here. Got the same answer, and I didn't have to simplify, which is a little bit, can be a little bit nicer, okay? So that's essentially the one new thing that you'll learn this section here for the extension. All right, let's move on, and we'll try one more example. And here, we'll start with a little bit of vocab first, but it says to add or subtract mixed numbers, first rewrite the numbers as improper fractions, and then find the least common denominator. So remember, the improper fraction is where the numerator is bigger than your denominator. All right, so we'll try that. I'll give you a quick reminder on how to change these mixed numbers into improper fractions. All right, the trick is to multiply your whole number times your denominator. So 4 times 4 gives me 16. And then add your numerator. So 16 plus 3 would give me 19. And keep your same denominator, so 4, 19/4. Again, multiply your whole number times your denominator and add the numerator. All right, so multiply 2 times 10 would be 20, plus 3 would be 23. Keep my denominator of tenths. And I'm subtracting these two fractions. You'll notice I don't have a common denominator right now. So I need to find a common denominator, right? Well, you could say, let's do like we just did. Let's find the least common multiple of 4 and 10 so that we don't have to simplify in the end. And then that will be our common denominator. So multiples of 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, so on and so forth. Multiples of 4, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Oh, I found it. It's 20 is my least common multiple. So, in other words, I'm going to rewrite both of these fractions into 20ths. So I need to make 19/4 into 20ths. And I also need to make 23/10 into 20ths, because that'll give me a common denominator of 20. All right, 4 times 5 is 20. So I need to multiply by 5 on top to keep this fraction equivalent. 19 times 5 would give me 95. And how do I go from 10 to 20? Well, I'll just multiply by 2 on top and bottom to keep my fraction equivalent. 23 times 2 would give me 46. Right? Now let's rewrite these two fractions so it's a little bit more clear. 19/4 I rewrote as 95/20. And I'm going to subtract that from, this was rewritten as 46/20. Okay. Keep your common denominator when you're adding and subtracting fractions, so 20ths. And then 95 minus 46 should give me 49. Okay. Notice my answer is an improper fraction. A lot of the times we should rewrite improper fractions as mixed numbers. So this is technically correct, but let's practice rewriting this as a mixed number. So to do that, I ask myself, how many times does 20 go into 49? 2 whole times, which would be 40. And how many left over to get to 49? Well, 40 to 49, there'd be 9 left over. So that's my numerator. Keep my common denominator of 20. So you could have 49 twentieths, or that's the same thing as 2 and 9 twentieths. All right, that does it for 1.6 extension. And actually, that does it for all of Chapter 1. We are now complete with Chapter 1. So please let me know if I can help you more with adding and subtracting fractions here. Hopefully it's a good reminder, and hopefully I see all of you doing this right now. All right, that's all I have for today.